Okay, we're back on the air. Right, so left you guys in a dark crystal corridor in the bottom of this quartz monolith, having irked, shall we say, a group team of archaeologists and priests, theologists, some kind of general academics, um, seriously injuring their head priest, getting yourself kind of locked in here by virtue of a pack of dynamite thrown at the entrance, and you ending up on the other side. No torches to speak of, no adventuring gear, um, and also at the top of this monolith, a grave threat, as Parites has seen, an ancient crystal titan that must never be awoken.
Oh, I guess we're just going to have to go punch it.
I guess so.
Out of character.
So, what I would normally do, I would say something along the lines of, let's call it a bit of a perilous journey using adventuring gear instead of rations, because it's not so much
But
a journey in terms of days, in terms of hours, and kind of navigating this area in the dark and everything else. Obviously, the issue there is there isn't any adventuring gear to speak of, so I think you guys are just going to have to wing it as best you can. What I will say is I'll give you a freebie if you like, which occurred to me while I was getting my cup of coffee. There is a light source. It's not a very reliable one, but if Parites touches the crystal with his hands, his point of channeling is his hands. So if he touches the crystal walls with the palms of his hands, he's going to make more of that lightning effect. It's going to arc out something crazy, but it is light. And if you keep a respectful distance, Rex, then there is that element. So I think one way or another you'd have found, as soon as you two have finished arguing, you may well have realized that.
Okay.
Anything beyond there, I guess, up to you guys.
Okay, so I think that when I figure out that I can light up the corridors, I will try to light them up just a little bit, just enough to check in the rumble if I can find suitable size crystal of the same nature, so that I could hold it in my hand and use my trickle to, make a globe of light out of that the crystal I would find in the rumble.
Well, the walls are, you don't even necessarily need the light to realize this, although it certainly helps. The walls have been kind of hewn, shattered in some places, by the archaeologists.
Mm-hmm.
So they've basically kind of made a mining tunnel. It's fairly rough cut, especially down here. You don't have a problem with it, Parites, but Rex, you'd have to be careful getting skin to skin contact with the walls, because there are a lot of very sharp edges there.
Sure, I'm sure I can tough them out, especially since I'm armored.
Oh, I mean, your armor would protect it easily. It's just, if you put your hand against a wall just to do that, it'd be like, you might run your hand over a very sharp surface without even realizing it. But it'd be very minor, paper cut territory. Anyway, so my point being, there's a lot of kind of sharp pieces and raw chunks that could probably be kind of ripped off or punched off of the wall with the application of a bit of force. So you certainly could do that if you wanted, Parites. You could, pull a chunk off and kind of use that as a kind of light source to hold above you. The trick is to do it without causing too much, environmental damage. So why don't you go ahead, if you want to go ahead and do that.
That's why my first idea was to find similar crystals in the rumble, so they would be already broken off and I wouldn't have to damage anything.
Oh, I see. Yeah, pieces which had already fallen off.
Yeah.
Well, you certainly
just grab a rock from the pile at the door, presumably. The one that's
I was going to say there's going to be fragments around from there. So yeah, you find a little. They're pretty small. They're smaller than you'd like because it's been kind of shattered. So in your hands, it's tiny. But yeah, you find enough of this raw crystal.
Well, I mean, if I can take time to find a suitable size one, and I mean, even if they aren't, then I will use the smaller ones.
Yes.
And look at the walls, and then find a suitable size chunk I could just get out of the wall with a little twitch,
Yeah.
because I can use the natural cleavage of the crystals to cut it straight.
Well, like I say, the best part that you managed to find is not a particularly sizable chunk, but it's big enough. It's big enough for your needs. On your hand, in Rex's hand, it would be big, but in your hand, it's sort of maybe as big as sort of the center of your palm.
Yeah,
but it's enough for your
okay.
needs. So with holding this like open on your palm like that, just leave. You don't even have to do anything per se. It just reacts automatically. You just hold it in the palm of your hand open like that, and it just starts crackling with an arc of energy. And manages to kind of it's a flickering light. Hopefully Rex doesn't have epilepsy, but that notwithstanding,
No.
but that notwithstanding, you do manage to have enough of a flickering light, and that manages to last you. Let's sort of skip ahead a little bit. It manages to last you for a fair few hours before that fragment of crystal basically burns out. So in that couple of hours, you're basically exploring down through these catacombs. You're working your way, upwards, I should say, working your way upwards through these catacombs. These winding, hewn out corridors. The higher up you go, after you carry on going for probably the best part of an hour, you find it's actually the higher up you go, in a way, the lighter it seems, because the higher up you go, the more these corridors become less crudely and recently hewn, and more actual corridors that are very smooth, just smooth rectangular stone corridor, quartz corridors, big enough for you. When you first in that first corridor that was human-sized, you had to stoop varieties because you're taller than most humans, aren't you? So initially you had to sort of stoop to make your way through, but after a worryingly short time, you managed to make your way into you managed to break through these corridors that have been crudely cut out, break through into these much more finely wrought corridors, which have obviously been made by people of your civilization, albeit millennia ago.
Sure.
So that's the sort of way you're working your way through, and these walls are much smoother and much easier to navigate, and work their way sort of spiraling around and slowly making their way up these up this monolith. So you're working your way through these sorts of polished walls. It's a bit easier to navigate now because the light is reflecting off of these lighter walls. It's you're getting a bit more of a reflection off of the smoother stone, so you actually get a bit more of your bearings a little bit more. And like I say,
just keep on forging onwards, really. There isn't much else for us to do.
Absolutely. You forge onwards for a good couple of hours before that chunk of crystal starts to give out. Basically, it's burning up. It's not really designed as a torch. It's sort of basically burning out. But it lasts you a good couple of hours. And it's sort of flickering away. You're in the middle of an intersection. The corridors continue to wind upwards as much the same way as you've been going up to this point. And then the light sort of flickers and dies, and you're left in this. It's a little bit lighter here. The ambient light is a little bit easier. Must be a bit of there must be a hole somewhere that's filtering in a tiny bit of light from the outside, or maybe you're close to one of the edges. And it's dim, but if you're an elf, you'd probably have 20/20 vision. And Parites, you're doing well enough. Rex, you can see.
Cool.
It's dim, but you can see. And yeah, you're just sort of left in this sort of dim dark in these stone corridors. It's all silent for a moment, and then you spot heading from above you, if you like, from up the corridor, a similar light source, a very flickery, lightning-esque light source, kind of flickers into life slowly at first. There's just a single flash, and then continues to kind of like you start to see these flashes making their way closer towards you, coming from above.
So guess I say hello in the crystalline language.
What does that sound like?
It sounds like that's kind of difficult. It sounds like stones you would scratch against each other, making a strange squeaking sound, but at the same time a loud. So it's It's at the same time very crystalline because it has very clear sounds, and also very earth-like because it's got this undertone booming all the time.
Sure, sure. Okay, so you hear this sort of, so Rex, you just hear him kind of call out in this kind of, it sounds like a mixture of crystals and stone rocks almost being shook up in a bag or something, to your
So
ears.
obviously I have no idea what it is since. Well, I suppose he must have. No, I must have heard some crystalline speech before. So I have a vague idea that he's probably speaking. Like I know
When
it's not
did
just
you
random
when did you hear him
noises.
speak in crystalline language before?
I might have, presumably when I met him.
Would he have introduced himself in his language?
No, but
Varieties?
I think that when we were on the boat and he was, helping me with my prime language or my Dwarvish, I must have shown him what it was what it sounded like, my
Yeah.
language or my
Sure.
mother tongue.
Like
Cool.
I'm not claiming that I can speak it. I
So
just
yeah,
No,
probably
I'm
noises
just
like this.
purely curious at this stage. I'm not denying that you would have spoken. I'm just curious as to when. So that's cool. Yeah, absolutely. You would have shown him a bit of the mother tongue, as it were.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you call out in a language of hello, who goes there type thing, and you hear back a very a almost quiet, distant rumbling of I suppose in your language it would sound something like a shaper of this place. Who goes there? To you, Parites, obviously.
Uh, a shaper.
A shaper of this place. Yeah, you hear the lightning kind of stops in its tracks, and you hear
Yes.
you hear a gravelly voice saying a shaper
Okay.
of this.
So this is not a real crystalline speaking to me, or
No, it's in your language.
it's in my
It's
language.
in your language.
And is
And
it
it says it's a
crystalline sound, or is it another kind of people
It sounds very similar. It sounds as similar to. It sounds as similar to your voice as I don't know. Excuse me, as my voice sounds as similar to yours, Bastien. It's
Okay.
the crystalline person talking to a crystalline person. That much is
That's
guaranteed.
it. Yeah. Okay.
Rex, you're not sure if it's two people talking or if the whole place is falling down. You can't really tell the difference, but
Okay. So I will say that I am Parites, herald scout of the cave mountains of Drolar.
right. Okay. And
So I
at
will
that,
introduce myself with my title and and everything.
cool. Okay. And at that, the shaper kind of works his way around the corner, kind of glowing. It's the electricity kind of arcs out, but then sort of seems to kind of when he realizes that it's not when he realizes it's another stone person, another crystal person.
Yeah.
He calms down, right? The lightning kind of just turns into more of a dim glow. And you realize that the lightning is coming from his feet. Every time his bare crystal feet step on the corridor, it's dink, dink, and he's making a glow as he takes every step, basically.
Okay.
In his hand, he's holding a sort of, it looks a bit like a lantern, a kind of a crystalline lantern. The body of it is kind of carved from obsidian or a dark rock, and the interior's got one of these. It's actually got a collection of these little shards of crystal just glowing of their own volition. Otherwise, he looks fairly similar to you, I imagine. What do you know about shapers, Bastien? Why don't you go ahead and make a spout lore roll?
Okay. Spout lore roll. So it's plus intelligence. So it will be +1. But let's roll. Ooh, I don't know much about other crystalline kingdoms.
Okay, tell me what you've heard of them.
Well, I've heard that there were other kingdoms and that we weren't getting very well along with them because we, the crystalline, we tend to protect uh, well, our realms, because we all live in those beautiful caves with very rare crystals, because that's really what we're living for. It's to embrace beauty through crystals. Sometimes we eat them because there is beauty in eating and creating fine meals, but we also just use them, to shape them into beautiful forms, and to shape them and to mix them into those really nice sculptures. And those are the ones that really, made the dwarves wanted to conquer our realm some time ago. And we were taught that, since we are very protective of our gems and the outcrops we're living, and the caves we're living, we're very seclusive, like, kind of people. I mean, probably that Priorities is even considered a strange person within his own kingdom, because he's curious about the outer world and meeting other crystallines. Well, I knew it was possible. I didn't even think it could happen, but now it's here, and let's see what arise. But I'll be very careful, because I know I'm on that territory, and that can be very, that's very touchy at the moment. I've got to be very careful about what I'm doing.
So you know that this monolith, first of all, you know that this monolith is something that's very ancient and something that shouldn't really be opened or unlocked. That's separate to what you've just said. That's the first thing. The second thing, as I understand it, is that these shapers, you're not super clear on the shapers, but what you do know is that the shapers they're like the craftsmen of your race. Is that right? Have I understood you right there, Bastien? That these shapers are the people who created they were the architects of your structures, and they were the ones who basically helped create your world. And that in some respects was a bad thing, because that was what tempted the dwarves to start their wars all those years ago.
Yeah, the shapers are the one who unearth things, and they move the earth and they carve it so that we can get to the crystals and to the gems.
The shapers are the ones who unearth things, right? So they're like your miners. They're like a workforce.
Yes.
So
I'm presuming if they're called shapers, they can shape rock through willpower. Control it.
Yes, yes, they really do, and so they can be something like very dangerous to us, because they can really tear us crystallines apart. But they're also very helpful. But that's.
I see. Yeah, potentially they're very.
So
But their power is very dangerous to you, because
I'm on a tightrope here, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Fair enough. So there you go. So that's what sort of goes through your mind as this shaper is approaching. That he's a folk who you don't want to earn his wrath, but you do. He is another crystalline person after all. Okay, cool. So he approaches you. Sorry, Rex.
I'm just gonna sort of heft my sword, just in case it attacks us. But based on the fact that Priorities is speaking to this thing and it appears to be speaking back, presumably it's not going to attack us immediately.
Absolutely, it asks of you instead. It talks to you. It talks to Priorities. Asks you, what are you doing here?
But not in a language I can understand.
No, it's still just rumbling to you.
So it's not talking to me.
I'm afraid not. No. But it does ask to you, Priorities. What are you doing here with this smooth skin?
Well, I've been sent by my kingdom to investigate the outer world, because we had this long, brutal, dire war with one of these creatures from the outer world called the dwarves. You know, those little brutish people with long beard. And so we decided that it was time for us to know a little bit more about the outer world and its potential for us to grow and its menace and the dangers. And so I decided I would do that because I'm very helpful with my people and I'm very curious about the world. And so, well, you know, I was going from here to there and trying to discover how those, you know, soft skins, they were, you know, like be like kind of different kingdoms, and you know, they're very strange people, very complicated and very, very divided people. And it came to be I was on a boat, and that boat just capsized, and I ended it on this island, and then I saw the monolith, and I had to investigate because you know the legions, and I had to know if it was one of the legions, and yeah,
Okay.
well, by the 6 crystals of Drunbar, I hope that this monolith will never awaken, and that the Titan it guards will never awaken, because I have felt that he was a very powerful warlord. And there were all those people around digging up things, and I knew that they could, you know, sometime or the other they would mess up things and probably awaken the Titan. And so I tried to talk to them to prevent this to happen, and it appears things didn't turn up quite right, and I ended up with this soft skin in this tunnel, and we're trying to make our way out without awakening the Titan, and you know, that's it.
So the Shaper says he's sort of nodding. He's sort of taking in everything you're saying. He seems, you can read his body language, I suppose. He seems fairly guarded, like he doesn't. You're another person of his kind, possibly the only one he's seen in who knows how long. But nonetheless, he's a Shaper and you're not, so he's sort of a bit guarded because of that. But nonetheless, he's sort of nodding, taking in what you're saying. Sort of cocks his head a bit when you start telling him about what's happening directly outside and the archaeologists and whatnot, and sort of stops you halfway. Says, "Yes, I know about the interlopers. What have you done to stop their path?" So.
Well, I tried to use their language and to show them that it was no good digging around here, and then they got kind of angry. And the soft skin here with kind of someone I've been through many journeys with, he cut someone in two, and they get very angry at us, and they begin to want to you know, to harm us, and so I had to intervene. And then there were those very strange, you know, these elongated soft skin with elongated pointy heads, ears, and they use some strange kind of magic. It was kind of a rod that would explode, and
he's like, "Oh, you
that's
mean?"
how we got here.
He takes out from like one of his. He's got various sort of pouches and whatnot on his own person, or whatever the rock equivalent would be of pouches, storage space. And from one of those, he produces like a ragged satchel, like a ragged yellow and black satchel. It's like, "Oh, you mean one of these? You've seen these?"
Is this like a dynamite?
Yeah, it looks almost identical. It's a very
yeah, they are very similar to that.
yeah. It's like I've seen these things' destructive power.
Yeah. And that's how we got stuck inside, because they have crumbled all the entrance behind us.
So there's no way of them getting in then. You stopped them from getting in.
Presently, it doesn't look like they will get in quite shortly now.
Say again, sorry.
I said presently, well, at the moment, it seems that they won't be able to get in on in the short term.
I was hoping you'd say that. That's when you hear a dull boomf from down below, and the shaper's like, "What was that?" And
what was that? What was it, like some big, huge, booming satchels blowing up the entrance?
something to along those lines. You're quite a fair way away from it now, of course, a good couple of hours walk and up. So it was like a very light rumble from where you are, but yeah, you all felt it. Rex, you felt it as well. And
Looks like they found another entrance.
found it or made another entrance. Yeah. The Shaper gets you up to speed. He tells you that he's encountered. He's the only one of his kind here, the sole guardian of the throne room, and he's been trying to repair the damage that these interlopers have been causing.
Yeah.
But there's only one of him, and there's so many of the other soft skins, and he can't be everywhere at once. And every day they kind of manage to get closer and closer. They manage to break more holes in or find new ways in, and it won't be long until they've now managed to. No, wait, let me say that again. Long story short, it won't be long before they manage to break their way through to the throne room. They seem to have, the robed ones seem to have some kind of connection to the Titan, and the ones with pickaxes and powerful satchels seem to be able to blow their way through holes faster than I can repair them, he says. And if you would help me defend against them or find some way of stopping them once and for all, then I'd be immensely grateful, and I'm sure I'd be able to pass message of my thanks on to others of your clan of the Five Stones.
Okay, I turn to Rex and I ask him, Rex, what is the best way to destroy this kind of crazy cult we've got outside, those people who kind of defied the monolith and want to
kill the leader and then kill everyone who doesn't immediately surrender and run away? In my experience, that tends to be the best way to do it.
You do that? I can help, and my friend here can help too. But we really need to do that. Otherwise, they will awaken a huge, rocky titan, an ancient warlord, very powerful warlord of my kind, and it will wreak havoc all around here.
Fine, I guess we can do that.
Okay. So then I turned to the Shaper and I said, okay, it will help. And he said we have to decapitate the cult leading peoples, and we've already identified the leader. So get rid of him, and then if anyone speak out louder than the other, we get rid of them too, unless nobody speak out. It's that the.
Okay. So he's saying, so you'll fight them all then? You'll fight them all? I thought they numbered in the dozens, and you'll fight them all and destroy them all.
Well, if you've got those, if you have some of those satchels, they're very those satchels, those bodies, soft bodies, they are very soft, and so with the satchels you can explode loads of them. While my friend and I, we will be taking the guys. And you just take care of the smallish one.
So you want the Shaper to help then? You want the Shaper to act as a demolitionist, effectively?
Yeah, but a demolitionist of soft skin instead of hard stone.
Sure, but I mean, okay, fair enough. Well, the Shaper isn't. I mean, he's got one of these satchels. He's picked one up off the corpse of someone he has managed to.
Doesn't have much,
but he doesn't actually have any explosive. No, it was. I said it was like the scraps of a satchel. It was just the satchel itself. No TNT or anything like that. It was just one.
Okay, I didn't understand that.
So it wasn't. He hasn't actually got any of that stuff, nor does he have any particular experience. It's always like, you mean one of these, and he's like, he doesn't understand necessarily the difference between satchel and explosives within. You'd have to speak to gnomes or dwarves about demolition expert work, not crystal shapers. That's not to say he couldn't do anything. It's just that he doesn't. I mean, he's like, I guess he's like
But
reading
I mean,
water and
so
shrugs.
if all those guys they've went through the tunnels are crystals, and he's a shaper, and so he can shape the crystals so that the crystals will expand and cut
Absolutely.
people through. Like,
What he could do, he explains to you, is that he could funnel them. He could if you two are willing to fight, he could funnel them into one point, so that you could be, if you wanted to kind of defend the monolith in here, he could funnel them into one particular location that suits your needs, rather than you having to defend all the different corridors at once.
okay,
And he sort of
I'm just-
demonstrates.
I'm gonna assume that Pyrotes is sort of translating so that I can actually take part in this conversation. It's probably a better idea to keep them outside. If you get them inside, we'll probably lose sight of them. So it's easier for us to go outside and fight them than it is to fight them inside.
Okay.
can you funnel them into the entrance corridor, and then we go through, and you open just a little so that only one at a time can reach to us, and then we can kill them one after the other until they get tired of dying.
Certainly.
And then we'll get outside and finish the job.
He says, certainly I can craft the corridors around here, kind of motioning to the actual smooth stone corridors. The ones below, the ones which are made from sort of the raw uncut ones, the ones which the guys have blasted open, basically. He's like, I have less control over, but I can do what I can. We can try and hold them in that first tunnel, but we'll have to go. But then he sort of says, but we'll have to go fast. Yes, they're far below us, and we'll have to beat them to the punch, as it were.
Okay, there is another solution. You come with us, you rumble some big blocks, and then I use my power to accelerate them very fast into the guys. And then all the soft skins, they just go like, we're making some jam of soft skins. Then crush them with big stones. And Alex defends, Rex defends us from soft skin that could, get through that.
Okay.
What do you think of that? Alex, I'm translating the plan.
Yeah. That sounds
Sorry,
good.
I'm waiting for Rex there.
Okay, so let's do that.
I'm bored.
Yeah.
So you start heading back down then, working your way down through the corridors. He takes you around a couple of shortcuts. Actually, makes you a couple of shortcuts to get down there all the faster. He literally just kind of opens up spaces in the corridors, just makes new corridors for you to get you down the stairs and downwards back towards the entrance as quickly as possible. And as he's sort of doing so, he's kind of closing places behind him as you go, and kind of taking chunks with him as he goes as well. So like before long, he's lumbering along as big as you are, and he's got kind of chunks of masonry just kind of floating in the air behind him. Chunks of this kind of great big crystal, all of them kind of crackling with that same energy, kind of almost linked together by this sort of arcing energy, carrying, say, 2 or 3 large bits of like probably head-sized pieces of raw crystal behind him for you. And yeah, you make your way down. You don't get quite down to kind of the fissure, the place where they blasted in, but you get within sight of it. And you may remember that you could go the bottom section. You kind of blasted into a corridor itself. So in effect, you've got. Just going to very quickly do a diagram. Not a lot to say about it really, but basically, you've got the corridor was blasted in. You see, so as it happens, you went that way, but you could have equally have gone that way. So what's happening is they're coming out. You see in the shadows, it's much darker down here, remember, but you've got the kind of glowing rocks to back you up. And as you come down from one side of the corridor, you can see they're starting to already kind of mass out from this fissure, from this entrance they've blasted in from. They seem to be heading out in both directions, just kind of scurrying out, and you can hear them shouting and saying, "Get them! Get the abomination, and get the and the human." And the guy with the big sword. What do you do?
I run down the corridor and swing my sword at them.
Okay, sounds good. So you're running down your corridor. As you get closer, you spot that there's a good 6 of them who are kind of working their way out. Various, again, mostly the burly archaeologists, the ones with kind of pitchforks, spades, heavy shovels, that sort of thing.
I'm going to try and swing it and cut down as many of them as I can in a single blow.
Okay, so you're racing down the corridor, and I'd say the nearest 3 kind of turn to face you, and just basically try and equal your blow, basically. So let's see that hack and slash.
That's 12.
All right, cool. So go ahead and roll your damage for me.
Jesus, that's a D10. Never rolls anything above a 4.
Okay,
that's 9 damage.
9 damage total. Okay, so your 9 damage is enough to clear most of the archaeologists to pieces. You know, you're breaking through their pickaxes and the shovel, and one of them tries to throw a whip at you, and you know that just who brings a whip to a fight? You know, archaeologist with a whip. That's just insane. And you manage to cleave through most of those. There's still even more spewing out. I mean, you know, most of the crew have basically gone in here. They're kind of making a break for it now.
Okay, so that's when I come into action and tell I tell the shaper to throw the rock, and when he's throwing the rock, I will use my ability to, you know, put force into things to accelerate the rock so that he will crash into the people coming at us.
Awesome. So yeah, as Rex is charged forward, sword in hand, this shape is just kind of going vroom, vroom, and starting to slowly spin the rock round, and then he kind of ponderously just kind of lurches it over your head, Parites, as you kind of channel your own powers to kind of poof, supercharge it forward.
Yeah.
So go ahead and roll plus con for me.
No, that's not enough. That's only that's 7.
7's just enough.
Yeah,
so you can take
just
damage.
enough. So damage,
or you can choose.
Oh, it's bender the elements in this case because I'm not using one of my techniques. I'm using, you know, I control my primary element extends beyond my body, so that I can use it on the rock flowing over me.
Right, but you're still channeling, aren't you?
Yeah. Oh, well, it's kind of. So on the 7-9, I hold one. So long as you do nothing but concentrate on controlling it, you may spend hold. And then I want it to do to has the forceful tag, so it will get crashing into the people and you know, throwing them around.
Hold on a second. What are you doing there?
I'm doing the advanced move, bender of the elements.
Right, I see. Okay. Manipulate something in the nearby environment made of your primary element. Isn't your primary element force, not?
Yeah, so that's why the shaper had to throw the rock so that there would be a force, a kinetic force into the rock, and I would, you know, accelerate that.
Right. Okay. Okay, that's fine. So what did you roll on your con roll there?
Yeah, and it's 7, so I hold 1, and I spend 1 for 1. Yeah, and I choose the option. It has the forceful tag.
Okay, sounds fine. So you basically launch this chunk of masonry at high speed down the corridor like a massive cannonball, I suppose, kind of rocking against the corridor. Rex, you're charging forward, and this great big cannonball basically comes flying around from behind you. You have seconds to react, I imagine, as he's just channeling this. What do you do?
Do I have any way of knowing that it's coming towards me?
Yes, you hear Parites saying, probably hear Parites saying, "I'm throwing a big rock your direction. Do something."
I'm gonna duck.
Okay. Fair enough. Roll plus dex.
That's an 8.
An 8. Okay.
That's a 7. Sorry.
It's a 7.
It's a partial anyway.
It's a partial. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. So you basically dive out the way just in time. It leaves you in a kind of ponderous place on your belly, but you're more or less intact nonetheless. The chunk of masonry just kind of just goes poof, 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 bouncing off of the walls round the way and carries on down the far. It goes like overshoots the fissure. It overshoots the actual corridor itself which is good news in some respects because it just kind of launches past and launches into the group that were going that way. So you see in the distance, just as you kind of skid down on your belly, you're closer, Rex. So you see one of them just get absolutely crushed by a piece of masonry as it kind of bounces and takes the corpse with it, bouncing and rolling down the corridor. And the other two are kind of stopped. One of them's flung to one side by the force of this thing as it kind of basically leaves a little crater in the floor. He's knocked into the wall, and the other one just it narrowly avoids him, and he's kind of skids back up and starts back the other way, back towards you.
I'm gonna stand up, brush myself off, turn towards Parites, and go, "Don't do that again!"
Parites, what are you doing?
Okay, since it doesn't, since Rex doesn't seem to like me throwing
Nearly
rocks
killing him. Yes.
Okay, I think it's time to get some reinforcement, and I will summon an elemental, a force elemental, and I would like this elemental to have the blast tag, so that he will be able to attack people. And so, let's go.
Okay, so when
Well,
you
he's,
beckon inwards to call forth an elemental being, choose any technique tag, in this case blast,
Yeah.
and roll plus con. On a 10 plus, the elemental flows out of you, and a stream of magic connects it to your emanation point like a leash. The elemental's nature is an appearance wholly embodies the tag you choose. You gain 1d4 control. On a 7 to 9, the elemental is also moody or troublesome, and you get to choose one. As long as the elemental remains leashed, you have the elemental protection and elemental attack moves. When you have 0 control, your element is released. It can act and use its tag at will, and its HP is twice your level. Maybe it's friendly, hostile, mistress, or just bored. Okay, so it's a fairly independent thing, but it's actually under your control for as long as you hold that control.
So that's 11. So I run.
Okay, well, I was going to say, before you roll,
yeah,
you've got these chunks of masonry, right? That is, and it's something that's charged with the essence of your race. These chunks of quartz etched with, half etched with images of your people. If you want to, you can choose a second technique. So it's an even bigger, more powerful elemental with basically this chunk as like the center of it. Then I'll let you choose a second technique. I'll let you make it even more powerful. But you will have to choose one of the 7 to 9 results as part of that. So if you roll a 7 to 9, you'll have to choose 2 of those. Or if you roll a 10 plus, you'll have to choose one of those. Or you can choose not to, or you can just make it.
No, I think I will choose that. That's very interesting. That's very tempting. And okay, so
so you've got your roll. That was 11, wasn't it? So
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So you're again 1d4 control, but you have to take one of the 7 to 9 results, basically.
Yeah. I will use I will choose it resents you and will certainly be hostile later. So that's 1d4 now. That's only 1. That's unfair.
No. Well, you've got it for a minute. So let's just have a quick look at these rules here. So when you or your leashed elemental takes damage, you lose 1 control and the damage is negated. And when you command your leashed elemental to use its tag, you roll plus control. On a 10 plus success, on a 7 to 9, you also lose 1 control. Okay, so, so long as you keep rolling 10 pluses, it's not the end of the world. It'll still do its stuff.
Yeah, of course.
So and you've got a second tag out of that. So for that 1 point...
But I've got only roll plus control, so it's a roll plus 1. I would be way more confident if I had a 3 or 4. But it's okay.
Well, sucks for you.
Yeah,
so what's the second point? It was the first one was blast, and what's the second technique?
The second will be. Okay, I had forceful in mind. I will go for forceful.
Okay.
Cool. So meanwhile, I take it there's at least like a couple of extra archaeologists left. You said one of them had gotten up and was running back towards me.
Yeah, and there's still more piling in from.
So yeah, so I'll just be fighting basically.
There's basically there's a horde coming through. You're the ones. Actually, you know what? What you're doing here isn't so much hacking and slashing. You're basically standing in defense right now.
Okay.
So,
Well, in that case, that's a 10 to stand in defense instead of a 10 to,
okay,
or 11 instead of 12. Sorry.
okay. So so you're rolling plus con there for your defense there, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And what did you get there? Sorry.
So that was a 10 on the roll plus 1 for my con modifier.
Fine. Okay. So you're standing in defense, or you're doing something else. But
I'm more
ostensibly-
interested. I'm more interested in killing them than specifically defending. But yeah, I suppose that
Right.
is defending the
So
corridor.
okay. So just to clarify, I mean, there's not like 6 of them there. There are 20, and there's more.
Sure. Yeah. So it's
So you can. I don't care. But I don't care. But if you want to hack and slash them, then if you fail that roll, it's going to be like D6 plus like 10,
well
because they're
that
just
was
going to mop you.
that was I rolled 10 on the die,
Sure.
so it's for me to roll again.
Sure. So it's up to you. You can either kind of be standing in defense of their attack, or you can just be going on the outright offensive. I'll let you keep the roll either way.
I
but-
think it makes more sense for X to go on the outright offensive
Fine.
rather than to be defensive. So that would have been a 12 total for hack and slash then.
Cool. And the damage roll?
I can't remember what I rolled. So
Okay.
that's
Roll again.
There you go. 13.
Right. Okay. Cool. So you're wading in there, you're slashing left, right, and centre, and you're dealing loads of damage to these guys. There's a wall of corpses starting to form around you, but even in the dim light, from the dim light below, you can see past the corridor. You can see it's mostly obscured by more of these guys coming, and more importantly, you can see that a few of them are sort of clutching more of these satchels in hand. Meanwhile, Varieties, you have your elemental. You've basically the Shaper kind of prepares his second rock of 3, and he kind of holds, but instead of kind of throwing it in your direction, he just kind of holds it in front of you, and you basically craft your elemental around that.
Yeah.
The flip side is when you've got a glowing red eye, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your eye is red. Let's say that the Shaper's eye is blue, and when the elemental is finished being made, because the Shaper was sort of partially involved in its creation, the elemental has kind of a blue tint to it rather than the red one you expected.
Okay.
And that's the sort of wild element. It's not so much it's wild; it's just it's following the Shaper's instincts rather than your own. So, but nonetheless, you still have your leash, your kind of stream of magic connected around its neck like a leash. And it's this colossal, it's way bigger than any elemental you've made before. So it's because it's made out of this chunk of like huge masonry. What do you do with it?
I will send him to run into the guys that are coming at us, and when he's in the middle of them, I will ask him to wreak havoc through them.
Okay. So it sounds like you are commanding your leashed elemental to use its attacks, a forceful and blast.
Yeah, but first of all, it's got to go into their ranks.
Okay. Well, that's not really a difficult thing. I don't think there's a move involved in that, because you're just saying go down the corridor. It's not gonna be like go down the corridor, troop, now what? If you tell him to attack, I think he'll be more than happy to just go down and start charging. So I'm not going to make you spend extra control for that. Unless there's something else I'm missing there. It just sounds like you're saying, go down, sick 'em boy type thing, It sounds like you're basically telling him to charge down the hallway and get stuck in next to Rex, who's sort of surrounded by more of these guys coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think that at that moment he'll know what he'll have to do, and then we'll see how things go on.
Okay.
But at some point, I may point someone to him and say, "Okay, crash him," and then I will use my hack.
There's like dozens of someones all around Rex for one thing. So if you want to find a target for him to attack, he'll certainly attack those. So elemental attack then.
Yeah.
Basically point him down the corridor and say sick 'em, and then you roll +1.
That's it. That's 8.
That's 8. So he does it, but you lose that point of control.
That's it.
So as you do it, I guess you lead him down. You kind of motion for him to go down the corridor, and he charges down, and he does his damage, 1d8 damage if close. So he does 1d8 damage to everyone around him, Rex, again, you've now got this giant elemental coming down. Do you actually? No, I'll let you say something about this, Parites. Do you kind of motion him away from Rex, or do you not care?
No, I was clear that I don't want him to be near Rex.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, I knew it can be dangerous, and Rex has told me not to do that again. So I'm
Hooray,
fine with
you
Rex.
learn.
So let's say.
Yeah, I learn.
Rex is there.
I mean, I presume that the elemental just sort of barges past me and then wades into the group of enemies. Yeah, that's fine.
That's it.
Yep.
Something like that. And as he goes round the corner, this elemental cord snaps. Basically, you're controlled. You find you're lost. You find the leash kind of comes almost. Yeah. This leash kind of almost comes off of your hand. This force kind of whiplashes away and just disappears into nothing. As this elemental kind of rounds the corner and finds itself kind of unshackled and just charging into this massive folk. And dealing a colossal amount of damage. 1d8 damage forceful. So go ahead and roll that d8 for us.
8.
8. There we go. 8 damage into these poor, unsettling souls. It's as if one of their own debt packs had gone off basically in front of them. This thing just rounds the corner and just 2 chunk of masonry mailed Hulk fist-style fists just basically slams either side of the wall and just brings down like a chunk of masonry on top of these 2 things. On top of the kind of the crowds of people there, and and basically you hear Rex, you probably see a bit of it, and Parites, you certainly hear the screams of these things as the elemental basically goes to work on them, just slamming the walls and trying to kind of trap them, the shape has still got one last bit of rock. They're still sort of, I mean, there aren't any more really coming out. They seem to be kind of, they've got to sort out the elemental first. What's your level again, Parites?
I'm level 2.
2, so it has 4 health.
I think I've got 4 hit points.
4 hit points. So.
Presuming it gets mobbed pretty fast.
I was going to say, assuming it's going to get mobbed pretty fast now, basically it's aggroed. So what's going to happen next is a combination of just force of numbers. It's holding the line right now. Rex, there isn't anyone immediately around you. Parites, there isn't anyone immediately around you, and there's no one around the Shaper, and it has one more bit of rock.
I presume that I can see it sort of getting overwhelmed, or slowly getting overwhelmed anyway. So I'm gonna sort of.
What you see, Rex, is you see that it's going to get overwhelmed in like the next minute.
Yeah.
Between a combination of debt packs and force of numbers.
Sure.
When it does, the remainder are coming after you because you're the next.
So I'm getting ready to sort of charge into the breach as soon as it goes under.
Okay, fair enough. All right. So
I'm trying to fight my way through them and outside, essentially.
You're trying to get your way out of outside. Okay. What are you trying to do more? Get outside or fight your way?
Fight my way through.
Okay. So like deal damage to them, or what's more important to you, getting outside or killing them?
Well, so the more of them I kill, the less of them there are to stop me from getting outside, and maybe if I kill enough of them, they'll run away. So the killing them is the more important part.
Killing them is more important. Okay. I suppose what I'm saying is that if you could get out, but there was one more guy to kill, would you stop and kill that last guy?
Well, I'm not in any hurry to get out, so probably, yeah.
Okay, fine. In that case, it sounds like another hack and slash against best part of a dozen guys as the corridor starts falling apart around you.
That's
basically, the elemental starts rocking the corridors. It's smashing the walls. It's breaking supports. There's debt packs going off left, right, and center. And they mob it. They pull it apart. They put pickaxes on it. They pull it to pieces, and they see it kind of pulling apart in pieces. And as they prise the pieces apart, and this thing kind of explodes in an aurora of energy, there's you stood in the middle, sword raised,
charging through the dust.
Charging through.
And cutting down however many of them I cut down. That's a 12 total.
All right.
So I'll roll my damage.
Parites, what are you doing?
That's a.
I'm going down the corridor because I sensed that my elemental was destroying everything around him, and I think that maybe Rex will need my protective powers to go
Apparently
through.
not.
Not especially.
Well,
Not
I don't
especially.
think I don't think
He
he will
doesn't.
need it to smash people. But if stones would try to smash him, maybe then he will need a protective barrier or something to help him. Protect him from rocks and crystals crumbling all around him.
By the time you get to that entrance, Parites, Rex is at more or less the far end of the corridor, having cut a swathe through all of these people. His sword is slathered in blood, and there's just corpses left, right, and centre. Between the ruins of your elemental and the ruins of Rex's assault, there's not a lot of people left standing. What there is, however, is there's still a very open entrance, and the Shaper is sort of stood there saying, "I thought you would close this hole. I thought, what are you going to do to stop these folk from returning?"
I will
To
kill
do
the leader.
varieties.
I will kill the leader, and that's what I'm going to do. But you can close the door behind us.
Okay, fine.
Because I don't want that door to stay open. Close it behind us. You have my word. I will kill the leader. And I look at him straight in the eye. The one
The
eye.
eye, yeah.
Because he hasn't got much more than I. And he knows I will do it.
All right. So
Because
he
real
nods
crystalline,
he
we have
nods
only
silently
one
and
word.
motions you onwards. He pushes you through the gap, and
Okay.
you're pushed through the gap into kind of the remainder of this. And that last chunk of masonry is just wedged into place, just smashed into place in the gap, basically sealing the gap. And it's mostly in there. And then you see it's almost as if that quartz is almost turned to like plasticine. It's turned to putty. And it's kind of smoothing out that space, and you can see that the raw quartz is being kind of shifted back into that nice, smooth masonry, and just cut back into the remainders of the corridor that you're now outside.
Okay,
And he
excellent.
locks himself back in. So the two of you have worked your way back outside. You're back. And like I say, you walk down this now empty corridor, back outside.
I probably wouldn't have stopped and waited for priorities. I'm sort of forging ahead.
So I'm saying what you're seeing first, Rex. Outside is the remainder of the camp, now severely depleted. You have mostly the academics, the theologists outside, and several of them seem to be clutching weapons of their own at last. Not so much understanding of them. Some of them have got a couple of them have got regular pickaxes. They're the unfortunate ones. But the more well-to-do ones, the ones who seem a little bit less academic, have got more magical weapons. They've got swords and rods, staves, that sort of thing, cut from this the same quartz. It's actually cut from the same quartz. They're basically wielding weapons made out of the monolith itself that look really, really sharp. The leader is there, but
I'm going to address the group. Any of you want to survive this? Because if so, feel free to drop your weapons and run. I mean, I'm pretty sure I've just killed about 40 of your friends, and my sword hasn't run out of edge. So I guess I'm parleying with the threat of violence?
No. Because the lead guy, the crowd parts, and the now severely wounded grand guy, the guy who was sent sprawling earlier, he's looking really, really peaky. And he's there, he's clutching his chest, he's breathing very heavily, but he also has a weapon in his hand, like the finest weapon. It's like inlaid with gold and silver, and it's clearly been master crafted by someone or other. This huge ebony sword that he's basically leaning on. And he says, "It's not up for us. It's not up for us to be walking away alive. We're simply instruments of his will, weapons of his will."
Is he within reach of me?
Not really.
Is he within reach of me if I throw my sword?
Yeah, you can throw your sword at him.
So while he's delivering his grand speech telling me he's an instrument of someone else's designs, blah blah blah, I'm just going to chuck my sword at him.
Cool. Volley.
Volley, that's an 8.
Alrighties, you're here too. You're seeing as he throws his sword at him. That's a straight up 8, is it?
Yep.
Cool. Well, I'm going to say that you lose ammo.
So I lose the sword.
Yep. The sword goes straight through him. Amazingly, he stays standing for a second, and
Okay.
as his head kind of rolls backwards, he has a smile on his face.
So that's 11 points of damage.
It kills him. It definitely kills him. But the reason why he's got a smile on his face as he dies is because he's still holding the sword, and his blood starts seeping over the sword itself. He basically collapses on top of the sword, on top of this crystal sword, with your sword still embedded in his corpse. The other theologists, all the ones with the fancy crystal weaponry, they basically do the same thing. They either stab themselves in the gut, or slit their wrist, or just behead themselves, or whatever. Ritual suicide, basically.
Yeah.
And as the blood of these theologists, blood of the
Joe, if when I see that the guys do that, I will use my power and create an earthquake so that they will never have a chance to do that.
No, I'm going to say
No,
no.
I can't be quick enough.
They're falling on their swords here. They're just falling on their sword. The earthquake wouldn't stop them from falling on their sword.
This is great. They're saving me the trouble of killing them, so I'm just going to sort of slowly walk
I mean,
up
you
to
can
the
cause
leader.
an earthquake, but if you imagine that you're going to fall on your sword, I mean, you don't need your footing to fall.
That's okay.
So I'm going to say that, I mean, yeah, you can cause an earthquake if you like, but it won't stop this ritual from occurring. They are just going to kill them. They're going to die whether you like it or not.
So I'm going to sort of casually walk up to the. Yeah, I'll walk up to the leader's corpse and pull my sword out.
Cool. The leader's sword rises from the air, as do the other now enchanted weapons, covered in the blood of their own guys. The sword makes a threatening gesture and stabs through the air towards you as you go to pick up your own sword. Your hand is on your own sword. If you keep it there, it'll probably get chopped off. What do you do?
Can I pull the sword out and defend myself?
You can do one of those two things. I'm really interested to find out which one.
So my armor can take a hit. So, since I'm nice and fully armored, I'm going to focus on pulling my sword. Maybe let myself get hit once, and then be in a position to smash that sword out of the air.
Okay.
That sound reasonable?
Sounds like a con roll.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Go for it.
It's a 6.
It's a 6. Okay. Mark experience. Which
Okay,
hand?
so all those swords.
Hold on a second, Bastien. I want to finish this part first. Which hand were you using?
It's pulling out with my offhand because it happened to be the closer one.
Right.
Yeah.
The quartz blade, the magical quartz blade that was finely inlaid with gold and silver, slashes through your armor like paper.
So does it completely ignore my armor?
It pretty much ignores your hand. Your hand is cut through to the bone and sent reeling, and you take D10 points of damage.
But does it completely ignore my armor?
Yes.
Okay.
It's like a lightsaber.
Okay.
So that's the damage you take. You have your sword though.
Okay, so I'm presumably going to swear, fall on my ass something because I've just lost a hand.
Pretty much.
But
you have your sword in the other hand. So that's where you are. Parites, what were you doing? What were you saying just now?
So as all those swords are in the air, moving.
Mm-hmm.
Movement is a force, I understand, and can I use this movement they have to crush them violently on the floor, on stones, so that they will break apart?
Well, you certainly could, but it's going to be more of a battle of. They aren't just floating. They have force of their own. They're empowered by their own magical force. So there's going to be a battle of not wills, but like a contesting force there, if you see what I mean. It's like two magnets. It's like two magnets opposing each other, and kind of. So sure, as you maybe you try and trickle a bit of power in, and you feel kind of an opposing force against.
Oh, it's more than trickle.
I know. What I'm saying is that as you try, as soon as you start, you feel that there's an opposing force kind of bouncing against you. So you can certainly do that, but it's not going to be just manipulating the bare force, the bare air around you. It's going to be an actual contest here, and I would say it's probably a contest of strength. The raw strength of your own abilities against the strength of this thing, against the strength of these things, to smash some of them into the ground and embed them.
Okay.
So
let's roll. 7.
Awesome. Cool. I'm going to say it's a bit like your channel move in that you can you can kind of maintain it. You can kind of force most of these down onto the ground, but take power, take 1d4 damage as you're kind of focusing, or you can only get a couple of them onto the ground before.
No, I take the damage. I take the damage.
So there's one big sword, the Grandmaster's sword. That's one. Let's say there's 5 total. So there's 4 other swords. You take the d4 damage, you said there, Bastien. So you kind of win the contest of wills having taken that damage, which forces 3 of the other remaining 4 into the ground. So one of them manages to just shatter. The hilt itself just breaks off.
So
yep, go on.
That's okay. Well, while the swords are distracted by Pyrites, is my hand relatively close? Can I see it?
Yeah.
So I'm going to drop my sword, put pressure on the presumably bleeding stump of my hand, and make it grab for the now detached hand.
Okay, sounds fine.
And then essentially going to put it in place and chug a healing potion.
Haha, cool. Okay, sounds good. So you're basically ducking and covering. How are you trying to get away from the slashes of these blades? That you've got the one big sword who's still kind of facing off against you.
Well, so I'm presuming
the other swords are distracted.
I'm presuming that Pyrites has managed to sort of even if he doesn't manage to jam it into the ground, his magical assault or whatever has made them stop moving long enough for me to just roll away, grab my hand, and quickly chug a potion. I'm happy to do a Defy Danger plus Dex if you want, just to see whether I'm fast enough.
Yeah, you know what? Let's say Defy Danger plus Dex. I think the danger is you might not get your hand.
Well, that's a 6, so...
Cool. So you can chug the healing potion, but you won't have your hand. So the stump will just heal up. Or you can not chug the healing potion and carry on bleeding some more. If you carry on bleeding some more, we'll call it a debility. We'll say it's you're weakened, -1 strength, which all things
okay. -1 con probably rather than strength.
That's fine. -1 con's fine.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I'll not chug the potion yet and sort of focus on getting my hand. I'm quite keen on reattaching the hand before I drink the potion.
Okay. So you're on the floor, you've got your hand, but you don't have the chance to get the healing potion out.
Yep.
The sword is looming over you now. Whatever distraction Pyrites had initially put in has finished. Pyrites, what do you do when you see this? Rex, you don't have a moment to spare here, right? This is now back into bullet time, right? You've dived, you've got a hand in one hand, and you don't have another hand, so you're there. so you're sort of at this thing's mercy. So Pyrites, you see all this. What do you do?
Okay, I've got.
You might want to give your friends the hand.
My first option is I can try to destroy this sword with my waved discus, or I can protect Rex from it with my invisible barrier.
Just push it away.
But I think I will do with the wave discus. I want to get rid of that sword because I feel that it's kind of the precursor of the Titan, and I want it to be broken so that she won't drink any more blood, because I feel that the more blood she drinks, the closer the Titan is. So I will try to destroy the sword.
Reasonable assumption. So it sounds like a
Hmm?
channel. Sounds like plus con.
Yeah. So that's 12.
Nice. So your
that's
wave discus
nice.
flings out. And what's the damage for that discus?
It's 1d8, 2 per piercing.
Lovely. Okay, so
So
go
1d8.
straight out. Go for that damage.
Yeah, that's 4, and 2 of them are piercing.
Okay,
So
cool.
if it gets any armor, it gets through.
It doesn't have any armor to speak of.
No. But it's in
But
metal, so
you
maybe
notice
you
it's
could
heavily done. Like you managed to
yeah.
shear off like all of the gold. Like basically, you managed to shear off all the trappings of it being a weapon. So it just ends up as like a shard of
A
quartz,
shard of
or
pure
shard of quartz,
crystal.
with the
Yeah.
pure like all the humanoid trappings, and it's just left
Mm.
as like the normal crude thing. You break a piece of it, but the main of it, and also you scatter it away, but it's still floating. You don't manage to embed it in the ground. Um,
But presumably this gives me enough space to do the potion.
Yeah. So you had this sword looming over you, and for a split second, Rex, you thought it was the end, and then you basically see it kind of woof, blown aside by this discus of kind of light
So
and energy, and you managed to chug your potion.
I'm gonna sort of like dump it onto the stump and then push the
Oh,
hand
right.
into it. So whether or not if that doesn't heal me, whatever, it's fine. But the important thing is to reattach the hand.
I see. Yeah, that sounds about right. So yeah, basically you bind your wounds with this healing potion. Um,
It's more like dump potion on hand, and then
yeah.
push the other hand into it like super glue.
So you're
It's
twitching.
magic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like super glue. So you kind of get this kind of, yeah, maybe you just have to do both ends of it as well, right? It's like
Yeah.
actually the healing potion is kind of viscous. So you just kind of squeeze it onto one end and one and on the other, and just kind of have it under your armpit. It's like, come on, come on. Oh crap, it's stuck to my chest.
Do I heal at all, or does the entire effect
Let's
go
say
from
that the
just...
effect's a minute, because it's normally 10 HP for
Yeah.
a healing potion, isn't it? If I remember right.
Yeah.
10 HP or 1 debility, your choice. So you can either lose the debility or you can get 5
So
HP.
let's lose the debility because that was part of the hand.
Yeah, sounds good. So you're still at the same HP level, but you have
Yeah.
your hand is now kind of clutched, and you can slowly move it. It feels kind of frozen and kind of
All it needs to do is stay around the hilt of the
yeah.
sword.
You don't want to, don't be
Cool.
waving it around too much, but yeah, it's on there.
Excellent.
So there you are. You got your hand back.
So I'll roll away and stand up and get ready to try and smash this sword.
Awesome. You do so. So this other sword. So we got one sword was shattered. One sword kind of landed in a really bad angle when it was forced into the ground, and it was shattered, and that was that one gone. Two of the other swords were embedded in the ground but didn't shatter, and they're sort of working their way free right now. The fourth sword, sorry, is still up in the air, just waving around. It's now kind of almost stop. It's no longer disoriented, so to speak. And the master's blade, now just a shard of crystal, is hovering in the air dangerously. And you know what, Parites, it's coming for you. It's kind of it reorients itself, kind of harpoon-like, kind of spear-like, the point launching directly at you, and just kind of launches over in a wide in a arrow. It just fires at you like a dart. What do you do? Yawns. Oh no, D10 damage. No, not really.
No. What I'm gonna do is try to avoid it and dodge. And when I've dodged, I will, as I have accelerated rocks, I will accelerate it so that it will get into the ground and shatter in 1,000 shards.
Like,
and I hope it will be
swat it out of the air almost.
First of all, I've got to dodge it, and that's the tricky part.
Yeah.
I think.
It's like but it's more of a combat here, isn't it? The focus is on defeating it as opposed to dodging it. Is that right?
Yes, I really want to break it apart. Yeah.
Because it's like, sure, you're dodging it, but you're dodging it as part of kind of a sidestep and a swipe to shatter it into the ground.
Yeah,
so I'm going to call that a hack and slash. You are literally getting up close and personal and just slamming it into the ground if you can.
So hack and slash, and that's a miss.
That's a miss.
That's a miss.
So you take D10 damage. Let's see the extent of that damage, and it does ignore your armor.
I don't have any armor anyway, so it's D10 damage.
Absolutely.
It's 1.
It's 1.
Yeah, 1.
Lucky. So lucky. So the sidestep. You just about managed to sidestep it. It clips kind of as your hand comes down. It clips the edge of it. It clips a chunk of your hand off.
Yeah.
Just the tiniest amount, but it's just like it is literally just a piece of your hand. It's just shorn away, revealing kind of the arcing electricity and kind of the untapped power of your channeled abilities underneath. And it hurts like the dickens, sir. It hurts like the dickens. Yeah, and it kind of flies past you, and kind of pulls up short of embedding into the monolith itself that's currently behind you, and is kind of twisting its way around. And I'll come back to that one in a second. Rex, what are you up to? You've got
Well,
this other sword to
I'm
contend
fighting
with
with the other swords, yeah.
The other swords.
So it's going to be a mix of dodging and parrying and trying to literally just smash them out of the air because my sword's quite heavy.
Yeah, kind of swatting them like maybe
Yeah,
with
exactly.
the flat end of the blade, just kind of swatting them out of the air. Cool. Okay.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Sounds good. All right.
So hack and slash, I guess.
Sounds like a straight up hack and slash to me. Yeah.
That's 11.
Okay. Cool. Sounds good. Go for your damage.
Okay. So do I need to roll damage considering I'm hitting swords? That's 13 points of damage.
Cool. Okay. So what I'll say is one of the swords was broken already. The other sword is currently fighting Parites. One of the swords was up in the air. That one kind of actually, let's say that one's an axe, because I did say they were different weapons.
Sure.
So that one's the other remaining weapon that's sort of floating up that wasn't attacked by anything in particular is an axe, and it starts arcing its way towards you through the air, and you just kind of smack it like a cricket bat, smack it.
Yeah, basically.
Against the flat of your own blade, and your signature weapon. No, actually, it's not your signature weapon, is it? Because that's the.
No, it's not. It's just my weapon.
Your regular,
my regular giant fuck off two-handed sword.
You just kind of swat it into the side of the crystal itself, and you catch it at like just the right angle to kind of get it spinning out of control, and the blade kind of shatters against the blade, the wall of the quartz itself, kind of quartz meeting quartz, movable force and thingy bob objects, that. So the axe just shatters against it, the one of the other blades kind of pulls itself free out the ground at your feet, and you sidestep it, and you try and get you get your foot kind of on the haft of the.
I just stand on it.
Yeah, basically you get your foot on the hilt of the blade itself, and it's trying to wriggle out free, and you just kind of chop the blade itself in half, and just kind of try and force your own blade just like through this quartz blade. It takes a couple of blows because this quartz is really, really hard, but the trick is that there's like an angle, you realize. There's an angle at which it's like flint, right? It's not so much that it's like super impossibly tough like diamond, it's just that it's only tough from a certain angle, and you catch it at the right angle, it'll snap, and that's what makes the magical power. And that's what what I'm going to say is you don't actually manage to kill all of them with that 13, but you do manage to find out its weak spot.
Yeah, so well, there were 5 in total. So one's just chased off different Parites. I've killed 2.
That's right, down to 3. So there's 2 nearby.
And there was one that was smashed in the ground.
One was destroyed. So
there's one left. Yeah, that seems fine.
Absolutely. Parites. This last one is actually no. Let's go back to Rex. Let's see what you do with this last one, Rex. The last one is a staff of some kind, like a cane almost. It's like a short staff. I'm gonna see. I'm
gonna. So if it's embedded in the ground, I'm gonna try and sort of get it while it's still in the ground, basically. And then if I can't do that, I'm gonna sort of try and bait it into ramming the side of the monolith because that appears to destroy them when I do that.
Okay, cool. Let's call that a dex roll then,
cool.
Because it's kind of trying to slip it and bait it and get it in the right position.
That's a 9.
A 9, cool. Okay. You can get it in the right position, but you'll have to take a knock from it first. It's not going to be piercing because this one hasn't got a blade to speak of. It's just going to be it's like a very fast, very powerful blow from a very tough weapon. But having taken the knock, you will be able to basically you could grab it. If you sit there and you take the knock, you'd actually be able to grab it with your hand. You could drop your sword, grab it with your hand, physically smash it against the side.
Yeah, that sounds totally fair.
Cool. So take the damage, and then you can.
How much damage is it?
D10, same as the others. D10.
Can I use my armor against it?
Yeah, I'd say so. Because again, not piercing.
Okay. So in that case, I'm going to actually use my armor mastery.
Okay.
And sort of manage to twist so that it hits part of the armor and I don't take any damage, but it does damage my armor.
Okay. So
I take no damage.
What at the moment?
So I'm down to 1 point of armor.
Right.
And I just ignore the damage from that attack.
Cool. So your armor is all crumpled up from this blow. Like there is literally.
Yeah,
Like
it's put a like a
mace-sized
visible
cane
dent in my
crossbow
pauldron or
back.
whatever.
But having got that, you manage to actually grab the staff itself and just ram it into the side of the quartz monolith, shattering the head. Maybe there's like a fine inlaid like wolf's head or something on one side of it, like it was an actual cane. And you just shatter that thing off and like the head of it and all of it, and it just kind of crumples, and the rest of it just kind of falls to dust in your hands. And that leaves only one left, the main sword, still going, with a big old chunk of quartz coming straight at you, Parites.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yes.
looming over you. It goes high. It kind of flies up high, and you sort of try and keep track of it as you look up, and you find yourself momentarily dazzled. Actually, no, because we said already it was in the shade, so you don't find yourself dazzled. You just see it go up the sort of side of the monolith itself, and then start spinning down directly at you, like it's trying to guillotine you down or something like that, going straight for the chest.
So now if it gets down like a guillotine, it's on its length, getting down that way. Yeah, okay. So now I can use my discus to break it in two.
Okay.
And finally start it. And did I notice this? What Rex did with the cleavage power of the cleavage of the crystal. So maybe I could use and angle my discus so that I would, get the shard by its cleavage, so that I would be sure to break it in.
I'm sure you could try. Let's see how the roll goes and see whether you succeed.
Yes, of course. Okay. That's 13.
13. Okay, fair enough. So you straight up channel that discus. It goes straight, cleaving through. Chink, leaves it in two parts, and the two shards of the blade basically go in a V shape, chunk chunk, either side of your body. Parites just embedded into the ground at your feet, slowly sort of quivering, and still discharging kind of the odd crackle of lightning.
Okay, so now I grab them and I use my power to sense as much energy as I can and channel energy through my body to shatter them into the tiniest pieces I can.
Right. Okay. Cool. One more.
So I guess I roll another time.
I'm gonna say one more con roll on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's likely that you'll be able to do it, but
that's a miss.
Interesting. Okay, one last channeling that didn't quite go to plan. Right. Well, I'm going to say both happens. You get some feedback. You grab the blade halves and the electricity. You don't really understand what the feeling is, but if you were a soft skin, you'd understand you're being electrocuted. The power actually is affecting you for some reason. And you take 1d4 damage from that effect. What's more, the magic has an unintended effect on the environment. You feel yourself being kind of drawn in almost to the essence, the force inside the blade. This combination of the priest's kind of soul that was trapped when the blood was spattered on the blade, and some other darker sense, a much more primal essence behind, the man behind the man. You sense that as well, and you get a sense of a single titanic golden eye opening, and then the blade shatters into a jillion, million, billion pieces, shatters like glass, and that's it. You're left on the ground. There's no one left around you. There's just an abandoned camp. A sealed up monolith, eerily silent in the waning afternoon light. The two of you left alone with nothing but dust, nothing but quartz dust for your efforts.
Dun dun dun. Are there any of the camp survivors that are still alive?
I'm tempted to say no, because I think this fighting's been going on for the best part of the afternoon, right? I reckon anyone who wasn't inclined to fight would have run. They'd have got on whatever pack horses or whatever it is they could flee on, and they'd have just fled. Because why would they stay? If in some cases it might be more than their job's worth or whatever. So or they're still in the monolith, right? They're still kind of caught up in whatever was going on.
Okay, so I'm looking Rex straight in the eyes, and I tell him, he has woken.
So what does that mean?
That means that the Titan has awoken.
Okay, and
And that means that
so
if
what?
we
We go
don't
punch
have an
him?
army to defend against it, we'd better leave this place.
Okay,
Okay.
Because
leaving
you're a
sounds
good
good.
warrior, but I don't think that we stand a chance against it.
Leaving sounds good. Let's go find a map and some food.
All right.
And just sort of wander off. And if I can sort of find it, some water to maybe wash off, considering I'm coated head to toe in blood.
Absolutely. Rex, do a quick wisdom roll for me. Let's see how well you can scavenge the camp.
It's an 8.
Awesome. Okay. You can find, let's say,
I'm more interested in the map and maybe the washing myself than.
Sure. Fresh water's not a problem. You find a horse trough, it's well enough. A map also not a problem. Seems plentiful enough. You find enough kind of notes and bits of geological crystal and general trappings and stuff like that. And a map is among them to give you a general idea of where you
Sure.
are. You're on the western coast of the eastern continent. A name I don't have a name for yet. Actually, let's say you're on the western coast of Chalcedon.
Chalcedon.
Western coast of the Chalcedon, something you'd recognise as the Chalcedon Republic.
Okay.
Okay. And yes, you find some water.
So I'll just dump the water on me,
Yeah.
clean myself off.
You also find D3 supplies. Roll a D3, and you can spread that number between
So
rations and adventure gear as you see fit.
Two supplies. Let's go for rations.
So 2 rations. You got it.
So that brings my total up to 7.
7 rations. 7 rations and no adventure
So-
gear.
So one, I'm presuming you mean like 2 uses of rations as opposed
I
to
mean
2
2
full
uses of
dungeon rations. Yeah.
I mean
That's
that
7
too can
total.
be. It could be 1 use of rations and 1 use of adventuring gear, or 2 uses of
Well,
rations or 2 uses of.
Actually, so how close is the nearest town?
I'd say it's about 2 days walk away. The nearest
Oh, okay.
village
Well, in
would
that
be,
case,
nothing fancy, just a farming village, enough to bind your wounds. They'd have an inn.
I'll definitely go with the adventuring gear.
Cool. Whoops. Cool. Okay. 2 adventuring gear is yours. Varieties, do you want to do anything at the camp before?
Well, I will go. Well, I will try to find some things I can eat because those soft skins, what they eat is just not nourishing for me, and so I've got to find some kind of raw rocks or crude crystals and that kind of thing.
Crystals and ores, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, make actually. Go ahead, because we've already established that there's lots of crystals and whatnot about the bits they were digging up.
Yeah, but those crystals, the purest crystals, they are more like sweets.
Oh,
So
right.
they're not really nourishing. So
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well then, sir, you may be in a pickle. Let's see. Best make a wisdom roll yourself then and see what you can find.
wisdom. That's 8.
That's 8.
Yeah.
You're looking for things like raw ores, decent certain stones, that
Yeah,
sort of thing.
or rough crystals. The purer the crystals, the tastier, but the less nourishing.
Right.
But if I can find some, some awful-looking crystals,
Ooh.
like Goethe or, more like the carbonate crystals, these are very nourishing for my people.
Right, okay. So how have you been finding those up to this point? Because crystals, this is the first time you've seen a monolith.
I can eat bare rocks.
Right.
That's no problem. But it's just like like a human would eat stale bread.
Right. Right. Okay. So you've been
And I
living on
need some
stale bread.
diversity.
You're basically living on stale bread all this time.
Yeah.
Right.
And during our trip on the sea, it was just awful. I was nearly starving.
Yeah. Definitely. I suppose that you were bundled with some ores, weren't you, in that original journey? So they might have had a few supplies for yourself. But yeah,
But they were eaten away a
yeah.
long time ago now.
Okay.
So
So your 7 there. Was it 7 or an 8? Oh, it was a 7 to 9
yeah,
anyway.
it's 8 because I've got +1 on wisdom.
Well, since you're not looking for a map, I'm going to say it's a D4 for you rather than a D3. So you find
Okay,
D4 suitable rations for yourself.
that will be 3.
That will be free.
Yeah.
Cool. Interesting. Okay.
Okay.
And with that, I think we will call it a day for
The end of the
today.
session. Let's do. Should we do our end of session move?
Let's do our end of session moves. That was an excellent idea. So, did we learn something new and important about the world?
Yes,
Yes,
definitely.
of course, definitely.
Good.
The Titan is new and bad.
Yeah.
No, new big bad Titan. Absolutely. Did we overcome a notable enemy? Yes.
I'd say so. Yeah, between
Yeah.
the camp leader and this magic sword.
Notable treasure?
No.
No, not really.
No, not really.
No. Okay, cool. We didn't really do much with alignments and bonds this session, did we?
I didn't kill any defenders of surrendered enemies. They were all fighting.
No, they were all fighting mad, really. Yeah, desperate to protect their claim, birthright, or whatever it was. Fighting mad. Parites, what was your?
I think I used my conduit to cause great disorder or chaos.
Cool. Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah,
Yes,
I think that at the very start, when I made the crystal singing and everything, I think
Yes.
I really created a lot of chaos.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Cool. So you've hit your alignment. And what about your bonds, guys?
Well, I don't think. Well, I don't. Rex, do you think that I made you respect the power I wield?
Yeah, I think so. I think that works. I don't have any bones with Parites, so I should probably get one.
Yeah. Do you want to write one in now?
Let's find out.
Feel free to have. Obviously, it can be anything. You don't have to put something in from your list. Go with something a bit more specific if you like.
I'm gonna put a bond in for Parites, but I'll figure what the bond out is later.
Okay.
But I think that the bond could be something like I will teach him how to behave himself.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
not
okay.
a bad one actually.
I must teach Parites.
Yeah, that's good. Excellent. Any other bits I've forgotten about? I don't think so. Alignments, bonds, end of session. Anyone leveled up?
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I've got 30 XP.
Wow.
Well, we can't really camp, so.
Well, it's end of session, so I'm happy
It's
to do
an
it now.
obsession. It's valid.
Yep.
You're just jealous. Okay, so level up.
So you're gonna add 1 to one of your big numbers.
Subtract your current level +7 from your XP. Increase your level by 1. Choose a new advanced move.
Absolutely.
So it's 4, 3, 1 advanced move.
By all means, choose it later on if you like.
Yeah, well, I will have. I will take my time because there are a lot of very nice moves, and that's not easy choice. That's no easy choice.
No worries. Okay. So you added 1 to one of your big numbers, and if it's your con, add your HP, of course. Include your HP on that.
So
Your advanced move, and that's about it. Cool.
yeah.
Okay. Good game, guys. Any questions, thoughts?
No, thanks for running this. Did we behave according to plan?
Well, it's a Dungeon World game, so I sincerely hope not. But
Well, no. So, more I did because you wrote, obviously it's an adventure you've written. Did we
well, the
see?
it's interesting. What's I suppose it says more about me than the adventures I write, but the official in media start is you're in a corridor, you're in a glass corridor, in a crystal corridor, and you hear something coming, and it's sort of you've just been making camp. But I
Okay.
do like to make the scene. What I quite liked was I got to use a lot more of my impressions. So I'm going to there's basically two lots of impressions. There's impressions what's going on outside, and impressions what's going on inside. So I was quite pleased with the fact that both of those got used today. Um, and all the enemies got a use in the end. Yeah, I mean I was pretty pleased with how it went. I've got to say, I quite liked it. It felt suitably fantastical. Yeah, I mean, what did you guys think?
No, I agree.
I really,
Game.
I've got only one thing to tell is that how can we play again? That's I really enjoy myself so much. There are two good points in these games is that I really enjoy myself so much and I practice my English, which is needed at the moment.
Well, I am definitely up for that. In terms of my free time, I'm a little bit pressed for free time just because of work and kind of real life commitments at the moment. But I am keen to carry on doing more Patreon games, and I will just carry on basically putting more invites on via Patreon. So by all means, just keep an eye on that. Yeah, we'll carry on the adventures. I've got a few other ideas in mind in general. Obviously, I've always got ongoing adventure ideas. I've got a few other ideas that I might bring in for you guys next time, or I might not. When it's this hot it causes my brain to get a bit frazzled. So I don't want to rock the boat too much until September, maybe. But I've got a couple of ideas, and seeing how we get on, we'll see how we get on for next time, whenever that may be, and we'll go from there. The other thing, I mean, this is less for you guys directly and more for anyone else who happens to be watching this, is that I am at least planning to do some games at different time zones. So I will be running a game next week, fingers crossed, for it'll be about 11:30 midnight my time until I don't know, stupid o'clock in the morning. But that's okay because I work for myself, so it's all good. I can manage my hours a bit, and it's pretty good for US times. So I am experimenting with doing US times because I know that 6 p.m. UK start is not ideal for everyone.
Yeah.
So I am playing around with other times, and I am more flexible. Obviously, weekends would be ideal, but like I say, unfortunately I've got other commitments which are kind of getting in the way of that right now, and probably will until the end of the summer, if I'm being brutally honest. So certainly I'll carry on with us just doing games on a fairly informal sense until probably the end of summer, and after that we'll see where we're at. Hopefully we'll be at a stage where we can say, okay, well, we've got a good pool of people, let's see what we can do with games.
Yeah.
I'm all up for
Cool.
that. And I suppose another thing that crossed my mind just now is if other people wanted to GM a game, if people wanted GMing experience, then we could play around with the idea of me handing over some GM notes, handing over some ideas for an adventure, and letting a few of you other guys play it. Because obviously, a brilliant way of playtesting stuff is for someone who's not me to see if they can make sense of the adventure.
You should totally. I mean, on a more general basis, you should probably. You may as well post like your design notes whenever you've got them ahead of whenever you're releasing the adventures, and just like put them up on the Patreon for people to see. Because it's more posts and more activity, which is always good, and also because people can then play around with them ahead of the actual release.
If people are happy with me doing that, it has crossed my mind. If people are happy with me doing that, and anyone who is watching this, no one's watching it live, but enjoy San Diego Comic-Con, by the way. Anyone who's watching this after the fact, I'm more than happy to put things up as like a Google document and let people comment on that, and then I can revise it for like the end of the month, and that can be the official release. It suits me fine because I've got a few things kind of in the pipeline. The only thing I'd say to that, of course, is there's a very mild case of spoilers in that if, for example, I'd posted the design notes for the Quartz Monolith earlier in the month, then we wouldn't be able to play it so well.
Well, just run one adventure ahead of the design notes.
Yeah, I guess so. Anyway, yeah, it sounds like a good idea to me, and I shall be keeping it in mind. But for now, let's finish up because I need a cool glass of water and probably a lie down because it's too darn hot. But for now, thanks for watching. Anyone's watching this afterwards, and we'll see you all next time. Thanks everyone.
Yeah, see you next time. Rock on, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.